Good afternoon, it's Kevin O'Rourke here, the Wine Man, in the first of my slightly educational videos, which are not too educational, but a little bit informative. So Bob, one of my clients, replied to my request email, and he came up with a number of very, very valid questions that I thought, why not take a few minutes to see if I can answer them? So the first question that Bob said was, how do I know if a wine is ready to drink or not? Specifically a red wine. So it's a little bit difficult. Unfortunately, on an awful lot of labels, the back of labels, it will say drink within 3 months, drink within 6 months, drink within a year. Now, this tends to apply to mass-produced wines that you see in supermarkets. However, on really good wines, doesn't say anything like that. So you're stuck with whether you should drink it or whether you should not, or whether you should keep it, or will it improve, or what will happen to it. And it's a difficult one to know. I will give you a general guide. This is in my humble opinion. If a wine is less than £10 or up to £15 a bottle, it's not really meant for keeping or for improvements. It's the sort of wine that is best drunk roughly, if it's under £10 a bottle, drink it within a year or two. If it's between 10 and 15 and £20 a bottle, then you can expect to keep it for a little bit more because it's been made in a different style, in a different way, and it is to be appreciated. And often the growers will say on the back, some of these labels, they will say, we'll sell it for up to 10 years. And that gives you a good idea. Now, whether it is right for you, as in you're going to really, really enjoy it when it's young or when it's 10 years old, that's entirely subjective. Everyone has a different taste, flavor characteristic. In the past, they used to have specific guides, but these were generally for very, very high-end wines where they would say that it had a shelf life that would keep 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And if you're looking specifically at Bordeaux, and specifically at very, very high tannin wines, now the reason why the Bordeaux is such an intense flavor in terms of tannins and dryness and intensity is because it is made to be cellared. It is made to be kept for extended periods of time because they're often maybe Cabernet Sauvignon, maybe Cabernet Franc, or maybe a little bit of Merlot, but it's that roughness and that really dry character that just dissipates with time, softens, becomes more elegant and becomes more approachable. But who has a cellar? Not me, not many people. If you do, great, pop those wines down in the cellar. If you don't, try to keep them in a corner of the room, keep them in a box, not near a radiator at all. You don't want them to be near radiators because it's not giving a consistent temperature. Whatever you do, don't put them in the loft. Just keep them away from heat, away from light, and just allow them to just relax and just mature. Another way you can check it is that you can hold the bottle up to a light. Now, if you're holding it up to the light and the light is shining down, you can see through. Now, if you look here, you can't see me. But if you put this up against a light, then you can. Now, that helps you in terms of looking at the colour. Is it still dark? Is it ruby red? Is it becoming more brick red? Things like that. Now, if you look at something like a Pinot Noir, very, very different. You can already see how much lighter that is. So let's put these two back to back. So you can see, look, this is Montepulciano, very, very dark. This is Pinot Noir, very, very light. Let's move it along like that. Now, Pinot Noir, when it gets older, especially in Burgundy, this one's a Chilean Pinot Noir, it will get brick red in terms of colour quite quickly. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going off or that it's bad. It just means that it's maturing more and basically losing a little bit of its farmyard characteristic depending on which part of the world it's from. It's losing its cherry characteristic. It can sometimes just become a little bit bland, but if you're looking at top Burgundies, then they can improve and suddenly they develop this most incredible, luxurious strawberry, cherry, rich, intense softness of suppleness. It's a difficult one to know. Now, Rioja, if we look at this particular one, typically, depending on the grade of Rioja that you're buying, whether it's a Crianza or a Reserva or a Grand Reserva, or you're just getting something like a Cosicha Rioja or a Tinto Rioja, those have different aging potentials. If you look at something like a Tinto, it's a young Rioja designed to be generally up to 6 months, maximum a year in cask, absolute maximum. Normally it's about 6 months in cask, 6 months in bottle, then it's released. It's designed to be drunk within a couple of years. If you look at a Criantha grade Rioja, it's designed to be drunk within 2 to 3 years. It's a year in cask, a year in bottle. Whereas Reserva is 2 years in cask, then 2 years in bottle. And that is designed again, because it's from the better grade of grapes and the better vintages, that it will keep for a more extended period. Whereas if you've got a Grand Reserve Rioja, what you have is up to 3 years in cask, up to 3 years in bottle. So it's already been sat relaxing and chilling out in the bodega and saying, don't drink me, I'm just happy here chilling with my sangrias and I'm just going to relax. You can't have me yet. But this is why the price goes up in Grand Reserve and Reserve Rioja, because you're paying for that time in the actual bodega. Trouble with Bordeaux, if we just use Bordeaux as an example, is that most of the growers, they need money and they need it now. They don't want to wait 10 years until their Bordeaux is ready to drink. This is one of the problems with the supermarkets. God love them. I don't particularly like supermarkets. I don't like how they sell wine. They will sell you a Bordeaux that's 2019 that in theory shouldn't be drunk for at least another 5 years, because it's just going to be nasty and it's going to grip you and it's not going to repay you with what you should actually have. But that's it with the expensive ones. The cheap ones, they're made in a very, very different way. They're made using mostly Merlot, so it is a more approachable style. I'm not knocking Bordeaux, it's just what happens with it. So that's one of the examples for you. Now, Bob also asked me if I want to drink, say, half a bottle of red wine and go back to it the next night. Should I use a vacuvan? Should I use, other particular tools or things? And what should I do? Now, vacuvan is a great little tool because you pop it on the top and you extract all the air out of it, or whatever air is left in the bottle. And then generally it's supposed to keep it for a little bit longer. The trouble is that in here, you see that little bit of air there? That's between the top of the wine and the cork, and there is a little shot of inert gas that is fired into every bottle that keeps the wine from deteriorating. Now, you can buy